Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to show you how to install a bamboo plant, how to create this modern evergreen privacy screen. Let's get to it. First thing to do is buy your bamboo. Now when buying your bamboo you need to choose the variety, and getting the variety right is quite key because it changes the colour, the size and the spread of the bamboo. There are two main types of bamboo. One of them is a clump forming variety and the other one is a running variety. Clump forming varieties are a lot easier to control, forming dense clumps close to the main plant that are less invasive than the running varieties. Running varieties send long rhizomes away from the main plant and spread a lot more wild. Once you've purchased your bamboo, make sure you get some organic matter. Now whether that be homemade compost or shop bought multi-purpose. For a rough guide, these pots are 20 litre, so I'm going to need 40 litres of compost to dig in to enrich the soil. Bear in mind to also add compost or mulch on the top at the end, so you're going to need a little bit extra. If you want a more instant height without buying a taller, more expensive bamboo, why not consider building a raised planter like this to increase your overall height. So this is the area that we're going to be installing the bamboo screen. There's a camellia here which is going to be taken out at some stage of the neighbours, and there's a footpath right behind there. So we want this modern screen to create a little bit of privacy in this garden. Before that there was a hedge here. It was a mixed hedge of buxus with a little bit of holly and some privet, and the buxus has all had the blight, so unfortunately we had to take it out and replaced it with this fence. But we want to bring that green luscious area back. So by planting this evergreen bamboo screen, we're going to create a nice luscious green area which will soften the edges of the fence. You also might want to consider installing a root barrier to prevent the bamboo from growing in a certain direction or to contain it entirely. In this instance I'm going to be using pond liner to retain it along the back and the front. I'm going to create a channel and plant the bamboo within that channel, and then this is going to retain it from the back to prevent it going to the neighbour, and the front to prevent it into the flower bed and the grass area. Another option to keeping these guys contained is using something like metal roofing sheets or concrete slabs, as they'll hold the roots and prevent them from breaking through. So you've got your bamboo, your root barrier, your compost and your tools, and obviously where you're going to plant them. Next up is to dig a trench along here, or if you're going to be planting individually, then we're going to be doing plug holes along the line. Careful when digging. Let me just show you how the trench is coming on. So I don't know if you can see the shadow cast because of the sun. Right. So effectively just shearing off the sides, then coming through the centre with a spade. Always a good tip, just to do a line with the spade like that, then come in there, and that will take them out. You kind of outline the channel, you find it a lot easier. The lumps of soil will come up almost in kind of rectangular form. If it's a little bit wetter than this, it's very dry today. Just remember also, if you're not actually going to install a root barrier, a trench or channel like this is just not needed. You can just plant them individually. However, if you're going to put a root barrier, it needs to go the whole length, otherwise the roots would find a gap if you only did the root barrier in sections. So the only option with a root barrier is to dig a trench like this. See, it comes up in this sort of clump. It's a lot easier to move and transport. So because I'm extremely restricted on space here, what I'm going to do is put this front facing root barrier in first, then knock the soil back across to the right, and then do the back on there. So I'm going to do half of it, fill that back in with the soil, then leave it sticking out here, trench that across, then refill it with the root barrier and the soil there. Bring you in to talk about dimensions, because I don't think I've really gone through that. So I would say for the width, you want to go for about a minimum of 1 foot wide for your bamboo, and that will give it plenty of room to grow in. That's in between the root barriers. And then for the depth of the actual root barrier, a minimum I'll do is about 2 foot. Here I'm probably going to aim for about 2.5 feet, and that'll be absolutely ample. The variety that I'm planting is Philostachys auroricalis, so it's a clump forming bamboo and it's not very invasive, so I'm very confident that it's not going to get past that. So that's it, we've got the root barrier installed there. As I say, it's not the prettiest of things, don't really like using plastic in the garden, but very limited on what you can use here. Anyway, it's 1 foot apart, nice enough gap, and it's deep enough. I've backfilled it, so ready to get the bamboo in now and backfill with that good compost we've got. It was a bit of a challenge getting the trench dug, because also we had the previous hedge roots in there, which was a bit of a challenge to get out. Another good little tip as well is when you're putting the root barrier in, is to jab the spade to kind of create a little slicing, go a little bit deeper like that to part it, and then you can slide it just that extra couple of inches down in there. So the bamboo we're going to be planting today is this Philostachys auroricalis. I chose this bamboo for its really bright, vibrant yellow canes, which is going to be a lovely contrast to that grey backdrop there. Now, I bought these really cheap because they're pot bound, so they're 20 litres, but I know they're very pot bound and they're looking a little bit sorry for themselves. So the plan is, we'll split these up. I bought 3 and turn that into 6, split them all into 2 and dress that along there. So that's a good little money saving tip. Now when you're splitting these, you just want to try and find a natural line within there. So here you can see there's quite a gap, so straight away I can put my fork either side there and prise that open to split. Now they've been split, it's just a case of positioning them in the hole. So already it looks pretty good, but what we need to do is now get them level with the existing soil on the surface. So some are going to need to be dug down a little bit, some are going to be raised up. And don't forget the organic matter. So I'm planting these in spring. It's the best time to get them established because it's just before the summer, so they can get their roots in the ground ready for the autumn and the winter. But it's not too cold now, so if you plant it in the winter they can get a little bit chilled and drop a few leaves. So it's a good time to get them in now when everything is actively growing and the roots can get established and have a nice healthy plant. However, with the weather, it's been extremely hot here. So I'm going to be watering them in as I plant them and afterwards with the mulch on top after, as I said. So we're halfway there, we've got 3 plants in. And you roughly want to space them out just over a foot. Obviously depending on the size of the clump. If you've got a smaller clump, maybe you can pack them in a little bit closer. So the way I'm planting them, if you can't see from the camera angle, is digging quite a deep hole, packing the soil either side, putting in the compost and mixing it with the existing soil. You don't want to just leave the compost in there loose without tying it or mixing it in with the original soil. If you mix it with the original soil, it helps the plant's roots to go further and stretch to try and find that nutrients, which is what you want to establish a nice, thick, deep root system. Whereas if you just keep the compost confined to one area, the plant roots will stay there, similar to like it being in a pot, and not reach further to find nutrients. This can cause you to get root tie, where they spin around in a circle and then not actually establish properly. So it's well worth spreading out that nutrients through your trench, digging it in. And that's them all planted. So what's left for me to do is prune the lower leaves and foliage to expose those canes, because we're going to have a raised green screen further up. So I'll have to do that tomorrow. As you can see, the light levels are pretty low. I also need to give it a good, well, another good water and a really good mulch on top of that as well. Now we're on day 2. So I think it'd be worth bringing you in nice and close to show you the progress made yesterday and explain a few things of why and how things were done. You'll have to excuse the wind noise, it's not as nice as it was yesterday. If I bring you in close, you can kind of see how things were done. So actually, with the heat, it started to crack the soil a little bit, so I'm definitely going to give it another good water today. And when I do so, I'm going to be just breaking up that soil there. You can see it's a lot darker underneath, so there's plenty of water down there, but it's worth breaking the soil, giving it a good water. So coming in close, you can see that it's planted just above pot level. Because the problem with these is you don't want to plant them too deep. You don't want to be putting soil further up the stems, they want to be nice and low down where the pot level is, just above that. So the new soil can cover the old pot and retain the moisture in there. You can see on this one, it's actually got some new shoots that were in the pot. So those are crucial to keep those above ground and not plant them too deep, because they would rot off if you planted those too deep and you wouldn't get those nice new shoots coming through. So that's something to be aware of. Also, as you can see here, we've got 2 levels. So this one I've obviously had to plant higher as it slopes away back down to this level where all these are planted relatively at the same height. So when I planted these in the ground, I dug a hole twice the size of the root ball. That allows enough space for that organic matter to fill in there. And with putting the organic matter in, I'm going to use a fork and just mix that in with the original soil. This allows the whole trench to be filled with nutrient-rich soil rather than just pockets of that. So then it will help the bamboo spread within the channel that I've dug and fill in as a screen. So to create this modern bamboo screen, what we're going to do is take the lower foliage and leaves off, retaining the top as that evergreen structure and allowing these vibrant stems to really stand out with that grey backdrop. This is done by taking a nice clean sharp pair of secateurs, blade against the face of the cane, and cutting off nice and clean there. I'll just bring you in on this one. So I didn't mention that I have been taking out some of these weaker, thinner canes because they're just not looking healthy. So the bamboo can put its energy into nice new growth rather than sustaining these shorter ones that aren't giving us that effective look. And I know obviously it's only 3 canes here, but I did split these pots, so I knew they weren't going to be super thick and full, but that's a nice end result considering it's 3 plants split. What we're going to do is, obviously over the years it's going to start thickening out, and I'll be able to take this up as it gets taller, up to about here. I can take all the lower bits off down there, so you just see the fence the yellow bamboo canes, and then a thick line of green bamboo up there. So what I'm hoping to do is have more of these shoots. As it's going to form a bigger clump, it will start spreading out to here. Obviously there's a root barrier there and a root barrier somewhere along here. Let's just see it poking up there. So it's going to have shoots that will, the rhizomes will send runners away from the clump just a little bit, just like this, creeping along, and then these will shoot into these lovely nice tall straight canes. Usually those smaller canes that I've cut off, these ones are due to it being restricted in a pot or just lack of nutrients, and it just didn't have enough to get to a tall cane. As you can see, it's kind of just browned off and lost the leaves up there. So now it's got all the space it needs, a lot of nutrients, water. On my previous video I discussed about pruning, and there's a bit of confusion about pruning the top of the bamboo canes. If you want the natural swaying bamboo look and style, then you don't want to cut the top. However, if you want the straight flush finish, you're more than able to cut the top straight. When you do this, it will leaf up and become a thicker bush at the top, which is actually what we kind of want to achieve with this bamboo screen. So as it matures and develops, I'll certainly be topping it flush with this hedge along here. Just remember, when you do cut the top, cut it at about a 45-degree angle away from these sort of branches. A good tip is to actually compost the leaves separately for the bamboo, or if you're happy to leave the leaves below the bamboo, as it contains silica, which the bamboo can break down and use to enhance its growth. Last thing to do is give this bamboo a good water and a good feed. So what I'm going to be doing is breaking the top of the soil, watering it, then putting a good layer of mulch on top so it can feed it as it grows. Just a few points to finish up. Remember to water your bamboo and keep an eye on it if it needs a liquid feed or anything like that. Make sure there's no pests or anything around, and that it's stable, that the wind's not going to blow it over or damage it in any way. I also want to mention about running bamboo varieties. Now I've heard of a few cases that are starting to emerge where people have planted them on their boundary line, and actually they've encroached their neighbour's property, damaging patios, shed foundations, and actually been taken legal action against. So I highly recommend going for a clump forming variety and also putting that root barrier in, so you're all clear and you don't need to worry about anything. So this is the modern bamboo screen. I'm really happy with how it came out, considering using 3 plants and splitting them across a 5-metre span. It's turned out really well, and over the years it's going to thicken up and fill in, so I'll certainly be keeping you guys up to date. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you'd like to learn more about bamboo, I've got 2 other videos I'll leave in the description bar for you, so do check those out. Hope you found this video useful and entertaining. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Really appreciate it, helps the channel grow. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.